Okay, so I'm from Sweden, yeah. And if you want background before freediving, you mean? I was a social worker. This is what I did, mainly working with teenager for a while, also in homes for, more smaller babies, newborns that the state needed to decide if the parents could take care of or not. So you're like evaluating the situation, things like that.
So you were working as a social worker, and did you already have a background in sports, in swimming, in the water? How did you discover the water?
Yeah, so I've never been a sports person, really. Having said that, I was swimming, competitive swimming when I was a kid. Yeah, so I was in the swim school, or I mean, up until I was like 12 at least. Yeah, where I was quite good, they considered for my age. And my parents told me much later that they wanted, in that club, they wanted to make me the one that they put their effort in to try to promote up to be really good. So they were asking my parents, but then I had to come 3 times a week before school to also train, not only the other 2 times. And then they said no, because I'm actually dyslectic or dyslectic. I don't even know.
Yeah,
that's how you
the
say
one,
it.
yeah.
You see, I can't even say
yeah.
it.
Well, you're excused from saying it
No,
correctly.
it's like that they're supposed to have to do only with writing, not talking. Anyway, so it was hard for me in school a little bit, yeah. So they figured like, no, that will be too much for me. So they said no. They didn't tell me this until many, many, many years later, when I was grown up already. And then my mom said, we probably made the wrong decision, because now you know more about everything, because for sure I'm also having ADHD, which at that time was not a diagnosis, but it would have been better if I did more exercise probably than sitting home studying only. Yeah. Anyway, so I was quite good, but I quit eventually when I became a teenager. And that's the only sport thing I've done. Other than that, I hated sports.
And then at some point you came to, you started Freedive Dahab, or you came here and you started freediving more than 20 years ago now.
Yeah.
So did you come to Egypt for a holiday, a scuba diving, or?
Exactly. And not for scuba diving though, but I came here with a friend to go on a swim with a dolphin trip. Mainly we went to Eilat. That was an organized trip by 2 Swedish women, which a little bit like into the new age thing, but they had this like 10-day swim with the dolphin, and there was this wild dolphin in Nueva, the next village next to Dahab, which had become friends with a Bedouin guy there, like a fisherman, yeah. And she just decided to live in the water just outside his hut, pretty much. So they organized this trip. We went to Eilat. We went there. And that's how I ended up here first. And that's how I ended up wanting to hold my breath longer. I totally fell in love with swimming with this dolphin.
Because you just wanted to be in the water
I just wanted to be
animals.
under the water more with the dolphin, because that's where the dolphin was. And we were mainly on the surface. And yeah, that was a huge experience. That was in 98, I think, when we were there. Yes, 98. Yeah, and then I came back in 2000.
So you wanted to initially hold your breath longer to stay underwater with dolphins, but did you know any free divers or have a sense about free diving as a kind of a thing or a culture back in those days?
Absolutely no idea. I was in the belief that, you can hold your breath as long as you can hold your breath. Like I didn't even cross my mind that you can train to hold your breath longer, right? So no, I had no idea. I didn't know it was a competitive sport. I didn't know you could learn it, yeah. And then there was a program on TV. Okay, so Jacques Mayol had a son that is Swedish, that I don't remember his name, but so he was doing a little bit of free diving things in Sweden, like 100 years ago. And there was a program on television, and the only thing that gave me was like, oh, really? You can actually train to hold your breath longer. And I wanted to do that, but I didn't take any kind of steps towards finding out where I could do it. But then I kind of knew that it's possible, and then I left it with that. And then I came back here again with my family for the third or fourth time to Dahab, and I met a freediver.
Who was that?
This was a Swedish guy called Magnus. And we were here over the winter for 5 weeks because we fell in love with Dahab. Like, I fell in love with Dahab completely regardless of freediving. There was no freediving, and we just kept coming back here like 2-3 times a year just for vacation. Yeah. And then this time we stayed for 5 weeks, and this Swedish guy walks into the hotel and dive center where we were staying, talking in the counter about him being a freediver and that he can do some freediving courses, and if the counter, you know, if they sell it to somebody, they can be a commission. You know, he was trying to do that. Yeah. And my husband overheard him and also realized he was Swedish, and he knew that I wanted to hold my breath longer. So he's like, hey, come, you need to talk to this guy. And that's when I did a course with him then, like a 2-day homemade course, which all courses at that time was homemade.
Yeah, I bet. And all freedivers must have been really weird back then. Like, I mean,
are they not now?
I mean, there still are. That's what I'm saying. No, they must have been like, most of us are outliers today. They must have been like really out there back in the day.
Yeah. So he came here because they have heard something about there is a place with a blue hole, right? So he was one of the first freedivers that came to see what that was. And he came with Tom Sietas, and Tom Sietas was a complete beginner.
Yeah. So German Tom Sietas, he eventually did the world record in static at some point, right?
Yeah. So he was a complete beginner. He had been freediving for 6 months at that time, yeah. So I did my beginner course with Magnus, and then the next week Tom came because they came to be here together, right? So then I was actually training static. Tom Sietas and me were training static together in Coral Coast pool. Super cold water.
So that was there
in
then?
In the winter. Yeah. Coral Coast has been there for a long time, yeah. And the pool. So we were in the Coral Coast pool doing static. Blue Beach pool.
Blue Beach pool, okay, yeah. So these are also for the people who are watching and listening, like 2-minute walk away up the street here on the waterfront. Yeah.
And of course not heated in the winter. This was in December, right? So super cold with gloves and everything. And I find it funny because both Tom and me did static world records later, and we actually trained together in as beginners right there.
Right in that Blue Beach pool, huh? Tell us a little bit about Dahab 25 years ago. Like, you know, we'd like to give people a sense of how it's changed, which is a lot, obviously, in 25 years, but obviously as well, like, what has stayed the same about Dahab and why you continue to live here. And I think you probably still like it, you know,
still here
enough, yeah. But if we think about it, okay, so now, and probably at this time, people listening, if you're watching on the YouTube channel, you're going to have some footage of Dahab. I'm going to be doing some walking around and getting some really nice pictures from Dahab and the surroundings. So you'll see that it's quite a, you know, there's pretty much everything here now. You have a lot of restaurant options. You have a lot of hotel options. You have, I don't know, 50 scuba diving schools, 10 free diving, you know, schools that have physical locations. You know, there's suburbs with housing areas, and it's congested and busy to a certain extent in some places. It wasn't always like that, right?
No, it wasn't. I mean, it was a very much like a very laid back, slightly hippie, more hippie village, you know. Of course, I've been here all the time throughout the changes, and when you're there, you don't realize the changes. You don't notice it as much, yeah. But a couple of things that I definitely can say. For example, you went always to sit in the beach restaurants, you know, they didn't have chairs and tables. They had, you know, these palm tree trunks as the back seat and the cushions, pillows. So you were very much sitting on the floor seat, like we do in Blue Hole, right?
Yeah.
It was that kind all the way on the beach. At some point, the government decided, no, you're not allowed to anymore. You have to have tables and chairs. And that's why everybody now had these low sofas and tables, because nobody wanted to have the high chairs.
Right, yeah.
So as close to sitting
close to
on
the ground
floor
as possible, yeah.
So
yeah.
that's why all the restaurants here still doesn't have real tables and chairs. They have these low ones. But originally it was much more like Blue Hole, the whole front side, and you could go there, and the food was bad. You know, there was nothing to it at all. We brought scuba groups here, and you always said, like, you're gonna be, anybody who come will be sick.
You will get sick, yeah.
You're
We still
sick,
tell people that.
Yeah, I don't think that's true anymore, though. But then it was for sure. You said it took forever to get any food, and in the end, the food was like very average.
And
so
in those days, it was mostly still Bedouin who were providing these services to people, just as many Egyptians?
Yeah. Well, I can't swear on that, but there was a mix for sure. It was not like everything was Bedouin, definitely.
Because if you listen to the Bedouin, they tell you like the Egyptians pretty much showed up like 4 years ago. And,
but look, maybe they mean because they did show up 4 years ago, or what is it now? They showed up around 2016. After that, all the Egyptian tourists, the more wealthy Egyptian tourists, they showed up. So it's more than 4 years ago, but they were not here before.
Yeah, before that it was mainly European tourists.
Yeah, and long-staying backpackers. There were for sure no charter tourists, which is barely still.
Yeah,
they tried sometimes, and then something happened, and then everything goes down. But yeah, we used to have a lot of Israelis from time to time. When I first came, which was like in 98, like I said, and then in 2000, almost the biggest population of tourists were Israeli. It was really big for Israelis, and they were always welcome here. Yeah. Now I doubt it.
Now there's none. You know, before this all kicked off last year, if you had gone to Nuweiba, which is the next town up, that was still almost exclusively Israeli tourists.
It was, but
there,
for
right?
many years they were no Israelis, because it's been going through different periods where the Israeli government is also more or less telling them that it's super dangerous to go to Egypt and you shouldn't come. Yeah, so there was some incidents here, and then for years there was no Israelis, right? So. Like 2 years ago, they started coming back, and they were very welcome back. You know, it's like, oh, cool, finally there's some peace, and now and then this happened.
Didn't last very long.
No. The restaurants has much better food, and there's more restaurants, and there is more restaurants that have a certain cuisine, because in the beginning was just everybody the same, which the street restaurants still are, like a menu with everything, you know. As a person living here, we tend to go to the restaurants that are specialized. Like if I want sushi, I go to the sushi bar, or I go to the Asian food, or I go to the Italian, you know. We don't particularly necessarily go to the ones that just have everything, you know. So that's nice. It's a much bigger variety now. One of the big changes, that was when bread arrived to Dahab. Bread. My God, we missed bread.
Didn't you have the Egyptian aish before?
Yes, we did.
But you mean like
real
bread? Right?
bread.
Okay,
yeah. So all the foreign community were like dying for some proper bread.
Isn't that still only the German bakery that really makes bread?
Yes, but we didn't have it.
Yeah. So German bakery is like there's like 3 of them in Dahab, and it's like a German style bread bakery.
It's owned by a German,
owned by Germans, and you get like half decent coffee there, and cakes and things like that.
Yeah, bread is really good. Proper
here across from
bread,
Freedive Dahab,
stuff,
it's like if you get something delivered or picked up in Dahab, it's always like German bakery. Pick up at German bakery, drop off at German bakery. So.
It's well known. Everybody knows it. Anyway, so there was a German bakery opening, which was another person opening it, actually. It was called Alf Leila Bakery. or sorry, Layla Bakery.
Which is still the place up at the top of the road here, right?
So that's where the original bakery was, which was
okay,
Layla's Bakery. And when that was opening, in the end, they started selling the bread out from the back door before the actual cafe opened, because people were so amazed and desperate like that they could buy bread. We used to go to Charm, to Mekani, which makes bread there, that had the dark bread. So people in Dahab, when they went to Charm, they went there to buy some dark bread. After we got the bakery, I know that people from Charm bought bread here to bring back to Charm because we had better bread here. That was a huge milestone in Dahab life. Yeah. And like you said, now it's another owner, and he has many shops, including 2 in Cairo.
So you like the way that Dahab has developed, in the sense that there are more restaurant options and, and things like that, you know. Also, Alenka, I was speaking to her recently here, and she was, you know, she didn't come back for many years, and then she came back after a few years, and she was like, actually, you know what, it's quite nice to come and train here now, because, you know, it's easy to have the house and then go to a restaurant that's got decent food, and then go and train, and it's a little bit more convenient. Because if I remember correctly, we watched this amazing video film mini documentary about a competition that you put on here back in the day in Dahab, and it was incredibly fascinating for me. Unfortunately, we didn't get permission to use it, otherwise we'd be having it playing in the background right now. But at that time, the Blue Hole was like a good 40 minutes plus drive away, right? Because you didn't have the road.
True.
Now it's like a 20-minute drive.
It was probably the double, and you were driving the whole way on the beach in the sand. So now there is an asphalt road all the way to Canyon, but you started driving on the beach, so to say, already at the corner where you turn, where there is the Bedouin Moon Hotel where it says I Love Dahab. From there, you're in the sand, and the road is going in like this, I don't know how to say that you can understand it on the podcast, but... Yeah,
you're just driving through sand, basically. Like
but they had to do twists, you know, because they created, the tires create this...
like a groove.
These are you know, so the car started doing circuit. So at some point they were really high up to the sides, and then to this side.
There's still one little patch where they like to woo.
Exactly. The whole way was like that.
The whole way was like that. Yeah.
It was amazing. It was fun. And when you came to Blue Hole, obviously you went through this really little nook, you know, like a little opening they had done in a stone rock, where the Jeep just fitted through there. And was always exciting, and all the tourists were always scared, especially when you went back from Blue Hole, because you went through that hole and you didn't see the road. It was like you're gonna go straight down into the water.
I wanted to ask about that little opening, because obviously in the past it would have been just rock all the way down to the sea, so at some point they must have blown that up,
which was before me. So that was
but they made it bigger in your time here.
No, it was like as it is now. It was, the Jeeps went through there, and the road. I don't know if you can go and film that. And
there will be some on screen
because it's really really cool. So that the road where we go now, which is like on the side of that up, that was still there, but it was much higher. So usually the shitty Jeeps in Dahab, they couldn't really make it up that. So we went all through that hole still, while the Land Cruisers that came from Sharm, the nicer, newer cars, they could go up that hill because they were too big to go through the hole anyway. So it was these 2 ways going through.
And it's still nice how you get to Canyon, and then you go onto the sand again, and that's one of the joys of Dahab, is the morning sort of training trip to the Blue Hole. And you know, you see camels out there, you see Bedouin women fishing in the shallows, you see the desert dogs come down from the mountains to go into the sea to cool down, and it's still super beautiful out there. And
we were not happy with that they were building nobody here was really happy that they were building the road. Because we felt, I don't want an asphalt road all the way to Blue Hole, because why they're gonna start bringing these big tourist buses or something. You know, we're happy that you have to go on a on a jeep or a pickup.
But it's still nice how it's kind of separated that way, that half of the trip is still through the sand. But you know, it looked like when on the way to Canyon, so the Canyon is about maybe like 4 kilometers up the road from Dahab. On the way, it looked like they were starting to build a lot of resorts and hotels and things like that. Now there are maybe just like 2 or 3 that got established there.
But that's been looking like that the whole time.
Yeah, so they started building them, and then they got abandoned, and what happened there?
Well, I think this happens also in many other countries in the world. Like you start building until you finish the money, and then you just wait until you have money and you continue. Most of the time, I think it probably gets sold, and then somebody else continues, and then maybe they run out of money, and then they, some of these has been there for since I came and still didn't finish. Some has been finished throughout the years. Suddenly somebody bought it and actually finished. So there was originally, when I came, if you go from there was all the way from Dahab, the I Love Dahab Bedouin Moon there, until Blue Hole, there was only Daniela.
Daniela, yeah.
That was the only
one.
Where and you were driving in front of it.
You get the boat from Daniela now to Abu
you were
Kalum.
driving, the road was in front of it, not behind it. There was no behind road.
For me, one of the biggest challenges living in Dahab, and I love Dahab, I think, and I'm not gonna spend my time complaining about aspects of living in a developing country and an under cared for town, but the trash is very challenging.
Still here.
Is it worse now, or was it always bad? Or I mean,
it was always bad. I don't know if it was. Look, to be honest, I think they have the absolute best cleaning company now that they ever had. There was always this was always an issue. I don't think the government wants to spend any money. It's corrupt and whatnot. So of course they always wanted to pay as little as possible. So it used to be absolutely useless. Really bad. And then they changed many times over the year, and then they get the new company, and it's still bad. And it usually be the worst in Asala, where everybody lived, and they tend to only clean where the tourists were and don't care about where the people lived much. But this company they have now, I think it has to do more with how much the government decided to pay for it. To ask the company to do. It's not the company in itself, but they're doing an amazing job now. So for the last 1 or 2 years, I think Dahab is the cleanest ever, and you can see that the government is paying more money because, you have the street cleaners that walk around and clean with the small. We didn't have that for 20 years at all, right? And then the garbage trucks that pick up empty the big bins, are coming very regularly. Also in the area where the people live in Asala.
At least in the area where the people are frequenting most, and so probably better than most places in Egypt.
This I cannot say. I've been in some cities in Egypt where it's so clean, and I'm thinking like, why they can manage to clean here when not in Dahab?
Here the problem that I see mainly is that people put the trash into bags and then leave them on the side of the street, and then in the night dogs and cats go through them, open the bags up, and it's very windy here, and these bottles and everything end up all over the streets. Every morning you come out, you see the bags are opened up all over the streets, and because everything in Dahab is right next to the water, half of it ends up in the water as well. And unless you have some kind of facility for putting the bags into a protected place, and there are no trash cans here really, they're just the big ones that get there's a few of them around the city.
It used to be more of those, and people were putting the garbage on the side of them if they were full. So the problem was that they were not emptying them enough. But I guess the government fixed it by removing them. So I used to have one quite close to my house. I have none of those close to my house anymore. I bring the garbage here, I bring my garbage here because I have them outside of Freedive Dahab. Yeah, so it's up to the people obviously to go and find one and put the garbage there rather than just throw it on the street. So what happened in some places where they used to stand one of these big garbage containers, they took the container away and people just kept putting the trash in the same place.
Yeah,
and of course then more animals can tear it apart.
Yeah.
But I don't know where you stay, but where I stay, I don't have this problem because we still have the garbage guys coming daily down the street and picking up stuff. I even saw the other day this big truck that has these round brushes that
I've never seen that before.
the street from sand and stuff. So they even were doing that the other day.
No, unfortunately, where I'm staying is it's one of these like sandy alleys down the beside the beach, and to be honest, it's some people who live there, they put the bag outside the door, and actually the bin is like 1 minute walk away. Yeah. And because they put it there, they just end up opening up the bags. But let's not dwell too much on the fact
garbage.
that it's. I mean, because
let's talk about the nice part.
It's good to hear you talk about like there's some improvement in that situation.
Oh yeah, it's actually way better than it used to be.
You need that.
But the education of the people of throwing stuff or using plastic and thing here, or like they have. There's nothing.
It's nothing.
Yeah.
I remember, I'm 41. I remember when I was a kid, maybe like 6, 7 years old. I remember very clearly, I grew up in a village in a rural area. We used to go to the local store. We used to buy candy. We used to eat the candy and immediately just dump it on the ground. I hate to say it, but our family, like everybody's family, they would take the trash trash bags, and if they had too much, they would drive a little bit into the countryside and throw it over a bridge into a fucking stream. This is exactly what you see here that looks absolutely mind-blowing, but I remember very clearly how the government initiated some campaign. They had like some online like advertisements, not advertisements, but like public information kind of thing. And
did a lot of that in Sweden too.
And they put new trash cans all over the country, Scotland, England, Wales, all over every country. They had these black and gold trash cans, so new ones, and then not long after that they brought in the wheelie bins and the fines also, you know, and they made it quite clear, like if you drop trash you're going to pay like £200 or whatever it is. I don't know what it was at the time, but it's amazing how quickly things changed. And it's also a little bit like the smoking thing, like I remember in 1999 being in Amsterdam and walking around smoking a cigarette, and I was serving tables and I had my cigarette in the ashtray of the tray that I was carrying to the tables. I was smoking while I was serving drinks. And then it changed pretty much overnight when they brought the ban on smoking inside. And so it's not like people here are ignorant or stupid or whatever. It's just
it has to come from above and below, so to say, but if the government doesn't, I mean, it's education in the end. It's not stupidity. It's just education and understanding.
And it's like I say 20 or 30 years behind. It's actually not a huge amount of time, but maybe we are reaching a kind of a critical period where the pure amount of plastic and industrial waste is a problem. That brings me to the question of the health of the reef system here and the underwater life. I was in Taiwan for 5 years. I had my school on this island Shaliocho, and I just watched the reef disappear in front of my eyes in the space of like 3 or 4 years from a combination of different things, but mainly people being the main problem. And then I came to the Red Sea and I jumped in the water here and I'm like, holy shit, like this is unbelievable. It's so beautiful. There's some places where the reef is so spectacular, and I've only seen really places close to the town. I haven't even seen like the really untouched places. But you have been in Ras Mohammed? I haven't been to Ras Mohammed yet. Oh my God.
Next time we do the trip, you want to come?
I know I haven't.
Okay. Okay. But look, we organize trips to Ras Mohammed. Can I invite you for the next one?
Next time.
You have to see Ras Mohammed. Come on. Yeah.
So in your mind, having been here for 25 years, what kind of change have you seen under the water?
Now you put me on the spot. It has been going back and forward a little bit, and it is in different areas, I think, because And I don't know. I mean, of course, people are everywhere. Unfortunately, also the Bedouins are fishing on the reef in some areas more than other, which they're not allowed to. I understand if they do it. This was their place originally. This was a Bedouin village, and they were fishermen.
And they are allowed to, right?
They are allowed to fish. They're supposed to fish from boats, kilometer or so out to sea. They're not allowed to fish on the reef.
On the reef, right.
But it's fine. They do it in some places. What happens is mainly that the bigger fish are gone. Yeah. So the whole Dahab area doesn't have a lot of big fish. Like if you go down to Ras Mohammed, there's much more big fish for two reasons. They don't fish there generally. Is more protected, but also there is currents. It's the peak of the tip of Sinai with some more currents, a big fish kind of like that. So that's one reason we go there. But so there's never been like a huge amount of big fish here, yeah. But I think over the years, like sometimes one dive site is like everybody's complaining about it. Oh, it's so bad, it's dying, the corals are bad, But then a couple of years later, that's kind of better again, and then there's another one people are complaining about. So I think it has some kind of cycle also that doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen reef like bleach, and like 70% of the whole reef is turned white in front of my eyes, like, and then the next year maybe 30% came back.
Yeah.
And the rest is covered in seaweed. And I don't know the exact details. Maybe I can link to some stuff here on the podcast. But as far as I understand, the Red Sea coral has much better durability than other coral around the world, because in its evolutionary past, there were periods of time when the Red Sea was closed off and the water became much saltier and warmer. So the coral has evolved to deal with
heat,
increases in temperature. But at least where I was, part of the biggest part of the problem was that it's, first of all, it's a tropical area, so they have a rainy season. And when people build on the land, they tear up the ground, they remove the vegetation, and then it rains, and then the rain washes all this shit into the sea that would never get there before. So it changes the chemical composition of the water. And you get more people, because there are more tourists, you get more people shitting, and more shit goes in the water. Excuse my language. And but the nice thing about this Red Sea, I mean, this is, you'll see in the background here, this is as desert as desert gets, and there's no rainy season. It rains maybe 3 or 4 times a year, right?
So that's a lot.
Yeah. And it causes complete chaos when it happens. So still an amazing place for the underwater world. Like if you want to see amazing stretches of coral, I think also around the Blue Hole is incredible. I love taking people to the bells and having them swim down the outside of the reef, and you'll see some footage of that here. Is it true what they say, that it was Jacques Cousteau who created the saddle of the Blue Hole because he wanted to bring it? You never heard
story,
this?
So
I heard that he brought his boat up and he couldn't get into the Blue Hole, so they decided to blow it up with dynamite. You never heard that one?
Never heard that story.
Okay. Temporary bullshit
where it's like you find it in articles and stuff?
No, someone told maybe like I don't want to name names because everyone knows everyone.
Don't name names. I would thought you read it somewhere.
A top freediver who lives in Dahab told me this story.
Never heard
Very
that story.
Very trustworthy source. Tell us about the development of I mean, Dahab is intimately linked with the development of freediving, modern freediving, and competitive freediving in the world. Tell us a little bit how, from when you saw this random dude Magnus in the hotel, how quickly did freediving become popular, and how did the scene develop here in Dahab?
Okay, so when did I meet him? Around 2000, I guess. No, wait, 2002, 2003, somewhere there, yeah. And like I said, there was no freedivers here. Like he was the only one I met, and then was Tom, and then we trained. And if you walk down the road with the monofin, people didn't understand what it was. If you went to when we went to Blue Hole to dive in the beginning, we went and we put the rope and the buoy outside bells. We didn't even put it in Blue Hole because it was supposed to. I don't ask me why. Actually, it doesn't make any sense. But of course, it wasn't attached to anything. you know, because then I did the courses with him, well, the course, whatever, and then I went home and I started training, and of course I loved the static from the beginning, and as soon as I came home I did the static records and stuff, and then the next summer I was here with 2 other Swedish freedivers, and we were diving in Blue Hole, but we went always to bells. I can't like grasp it now what was the purpose of that, but we had the buoy there and it was like floating.
So you inexplicably left this incredible natural swimming pool a little bit to the south, and
went down
dove
in
outside
of Bells,
where the current is and everything like that.
We didn't know how deep it. I really don't know. I mean, I was the beginner, and I had been here before, but they were more advanced freedivers than me. So I just followed their suit. You know, we did. There was no other freedivers here. That was it. That's how we did it. You know.
And who were the first people that started to show up, whose names we might recognize today, that kind of started to, I mean, apart from yourself, obviously, I mean, like...
So, yeah, one coming in the beginning, and one of the one hitting the bottom of the Blue Hole first was, for instance, Matt Molina. Yeah. So, and he came. There's some people that come, you know, there's nothing that stops them, right? Most people, we do have some kind of barrier that we need to break through. It's like the equalizing suddenly stops us, or we're squeezing, or it's just our brain who's scared of going deep, you know, like these 3 things. Like, it's very rare to find a freediver that doesn't hit one of these 3 at some point, right? But I met a couple that just come. So Matt had been here doing some beginner course or something with us. Then he came back. And I don't know how many weeks he stayed, but maybe he stayed for a month. And he came as a 36-meter diver, and he left with having picked up a stone from the bottom of the Blue Hole.
Do we know who the first freediver was to touch the bottom?
No. I'm not sure. He was one of the first. He was definitely what I know, the first picking up the stone, because my husband was always telling everybody, please bring me a stone from the bottom of the Blue Hole. That was his constant joke to everybody that went training.
So that's what you got to do. You got to pick up a stone, stick it in your hood or something like that.
Oh, he kept it in his hand. But
I always thought sand. And I'm like, well, how the fuck do I bring sand back up?
Exactly. So there is other people who try to bring a stone to Peter, but then they go down and they just like grab like that. And then there's sand and it just spills out of their hand.
What do you
but
do
he
with
managed to grab a rock, you know.
Can you imagine you went all the way down there and you just reached out to take something and you got a snorkel? You came back with a snorkel.
That would be excellent. There's a couple of them down there for sure.
A couple, yeah.
Let's not talk about other things that are down there.
5 meters shallower these days with all the snorkels and
well, you know how the bottom of the Blue Hole is, right? It's like that angle. Yeah, there's not a bottom.
Right.
Yeah, we know that. So because it just goes straight through the arch, like right? So when you're going down, and in the end, like you're actually going down parallel to the bottom technically. So it's so steep. So usually the things that fall down, they keep sloping down, and they end up deeper than where they first fell.
Yeah, I know. I still haven't really. I mean, I've seen the arch only without the mask on, you know. So I think I've seen it once with the mask from maybe like 45, but I really need to go down one day to like 60 or something and have a good look at it. Yeah. So Matt,
well, you saw it on my video.
Yeah. I mean, also,
and it's quite cool. And you're next to the bottom, literally.
So that was really fun to watch. You started to tell us about how this like competition thing came about in the Blue Hole.
Okay, so the thing is,
this must have been. Sorry to interrupt you. This must have been some of the first like freediving competitions.
Yes,
in general.
at the time when I started, there was very few freediving competitions around the world. Like now, there are all over the place, everywhere, all the time. At that time, you had the World Championship, which was like every other year. And the IDA then, there was no CMES or something. Well, there was a CMES, but they didn't do freediving competitions. So IDA had the competition every other year, and it was only the team competition. Individual World Championship didn't exist, right? And then some countries sometimes had some national competition, right? But that was it. So in Sweden, we had one national competition, and then there was the World Championship every other year somewhere in the world. and that was very much it. It was much more record attempts at the time, yeah, because arranging a competition, arranging a record attempt and national record attempt, each national AIDA had their own rules. There was the common rules of the surface protocol and all this other stuff, but who can be the judge and when you had to announce it and all these things was always the national decided, yeah. So people were not arranging competitions to do records. You arranged record attempts to do records, right? And also now and also then there was no competitions in variable weight or no limit, right? There's never been. So when I moved here, there was a couple of Swedish guys who really wanted to do, or one Swedish guy mainly, who wanted to do the Swedish record in no limit, which I don't know what it was, but apparently 90 meters was enough to do the no limit record. So he got this idea that we should arrange it here, and I said, sure, we arrange it here, So they built a sled. He built a sled in Sweden and brought it. It's still the same sled that is hanging down in the dive center. And me and my husband had the job to figure out how to create something in the blue hole that could have the sled and have the sled pulled up out of the water like sleds normally are. We don't have a boat. We cannot put the boat there with an arm like the normal kind of scenario. So that's when we built the pyramid. And so the pyramid is a massive metal structure.
I think we can get a picture of it.
We
probably.
need to have. For sure.
It's kind of like a metal frame.
Yeah.
That was constructed to have the line hanging down
in the middle with the to be able to pull the sled up out of the water so you can hang on it, right? It was developed for the next year after that to have a proper counterballast, because when I started freediving, there was no such a thing as a counterballast, right? We were diving without counterballast, and the only safety was the scuba divers.
Now we have a surface line that goes from one side of the blue hole to the other, so the buoys are always fixed in the same place. But you were telling me before that you used to just fix to one side and kind of drift into the center and kind of just know where to drop the line.
Well, yeah, and this was not a problem because there was only me and my school and my people, There was nobody else. So we knew. I mean, we're still attaching the rope. The cross line now is still attached in the same place in the front, which is technically right above where the arch is. So we just had the normal surface line, just like we have in Lighthouse, and we had our buoy there. And we knew, you can see if it was drifting. Normally it wasn't. Normally it was pulled straight. If the technical divers came or that go deep, with all the bubbles, how they expand from depth up, that pushed us to the sides, So if we see this technical diver going down, we knew we need to be careful because our buoy will be pushed to the side, and in different side, so you as the instructor were also in charge of making sure that the buoy was kind of where it should be, so nobody hit their head somewhere, but it wasn't a big problem until more and more people started having, and they didn't know. They just came attached to us, had no idea, and then just drifted, and we were like there screaming at people like, cannot, like, move your buoy. And then we said, okay, we put the cross line. So we put the cross line, which was like our surface line, What happened then is that everybody stopped bringing their own surface line. So when we wanted to get out, and we took out the cross line because it's our line, like that was for us our surface line, right? And then people go like, hey. It was funny in the beginning. But there was other things happening too, because in the beginning, the scuba divers and the tech divers or whatever, they didn't know what was going on, right? Now everybody here knows exactly. But at that time, we were there. We had a buoy, 2, 3 buoys. Sometimes we were a group. And any scuba diver that passed by, they had to swim to the rope, touch it, and look up and say, what is this doing here, Especially the deep ones where you didn't see, they didn't see the surface and we didn't see the bottom. So it happens sometimes that free divers go down and they like hit their head on a scuba tank or a scuba diver, right? So that was an issue and there was some crazy fights between a scuba diver and a free diver.
Two
in
worlds
the end.
collide, yeah.
Definitely, yeah, definitely. It took some year, you know, in the beginning, for all the schools here and everybody knowing that those are the freediving lines and we should stay away from them, and that they actually informed all the students and the other divers around that don't touch the lines and stay away. Yeah. But that happened a couple of times, some incidents with that. Nothing serious, obviously, luckily, you know.
Luckily, yeah. So that's still something that we have to watch out for today, is when we do drop the bottom weights at the beginning of the session, that we look out for bubbles first of all, but also that we drop with a little bit of care and patience. Slow, so because you can have some deep tech breathers on the scuba guys on rebreathers down there and
where
stuff
you
that
don't
we
see
wouldn't
the bubbles at all.
And it's funny when you see, like, now most of the scuba divers here, they know not to mess with the freediving lines, but sometimes those big boats come in from Sharm or wherever, and they drop off a group in the blue hole, and you see all these people come, and sometimes they'll come and hold on to the line.
They do that, because they don't know, because they haven't been, they haven't been briefed by the local divers.
So it's not like they're doing something wrong. They're just curious, but it does, you know, we do have to be. But overall, it is kind of like probably one of the safest places to do deep free diving in the world.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, the main thing that we were more concerned with before, even now, but still, is the distance to a hospital and a proper place if something happens, right? Like you said, it took 40 minutes in the desert to get to Blue Hole, right? Plus, we didn't have a good hospital here. The governmental hospital is not really anything good, and that was the only hospital we had at the time. So it was always a little bit iffy with the medical at that time. Eventually, they opened the chamber in Dahab. So Dr. Adel Taher, who was in Sharm, had the chamber there, the only one who had the chamber there.
Who still has the
main chamber there, and he knows more about freediving than most other diving doctors. He opened the chamber here, the first chamber in Dahab. Also, the scuba diver had to go to Sharm to go to a chamber before, And Dr. Hakel, which every freediver in Dahab know, he worked with Dr. Adel in his chamber, so he was the one running the chamber here. So when that happened, that helped a lot, and originally the chamber was at the harbor. And Hakel had tried to say to Dr. Adel, like, no, we don't want it in the harbor. That's as far as you can go from Blue Hole. But of course, he used to be in Sharm, and they have a search and rescue team with the boats, and most people are going on boats, so his chamber is close to the harbor. And he just didn't realize how much we're actually not coming with boats. There's no search and rescue team, and we will go in the back of a pickup from Blue Hole, and we want the chamber to be as close as possible there. So eventually it was moved to the beginning of the Blue Hole
and
road.
I've seen the building, and it's often crossed my mind, like, whatever happened to this chamber, because it's not in...
It's really unfortunate, I would say, because it was great to have it, and all the scuba divers liked it. And it was funny because all the first, like, for so many years here, there was no chamber. And then when he decided to do it, at the same time, another hospital did. So suddenly, from having no chamber, we had two chambers, right? Most people always went to Dr. Adel's chamber because he's well known for everybody here before that, and we trust him, and of course Dr. Hakel. So that was the one everybody went to. But what I understand, a couple of years ago, it was just costing too much, and he couldn't handle it. It was just not working financially anymore. So he sold it to one of the other private hospitals here, as I understand. Where it ended up in the end and what happened, I don't know, because what I know now, I don't even know if there is a chamber, if there is two, or if there's one, or what happened.
So that is the issue here, is that you can get to a hospital pretty quickly, but now with free divers getting so deep and doing so much training in the, it's standard for people to doing multiple dives in the week, 70, 80, 90 meters. There are those cases where decompression illness becomes an issue for freedivers, and it would be much more convenient to have one 20 minutes drive away than an hour and a half drive away.
Definitely. Yeah.
But still better than a lot of places in the world as well, right? Because we do
definitely, and also because I think they can actually know something about freediving and understand what happens in the body. You know, Hakel, he's been here for, you know, it's so many everybody goes to him, and also Dr. Taher knows and did some studies on this. On freediving, he treated, for example, Carlos Costa when he had his bad accident in Sharm.
Back in the day, you organized this competition. You built the kind of the pyramidal structure to organize the no limit stuff, and then we started 2 years ago having depth competitions in Dahab again after a break of a few years. But before that, there were regular competitions in the Blue
we were
Hole,
doing
right?
competitions for many, many years. We were the only ones doing. So we started with doing the triple depth, which was like a thing then. We did it 10 years in a row, and like I said, it was not a lot of competitions. And when we started doing competition, this idea that a competition in freediving means that you get to choose the discipline and dive as many times as you want, and then you choose your result, kind of. That didn't exist, you know, like a competition was still a competition. Like you go, you do a dive, and you compare with the other, that one dive that you could do, you know. Any other sport is like that, I think. So that's how it was. So we had the triple depth, which was all the 3 depth disciplines. Bifins didn't exist as a separate entity, right? And there was 1 day for free immersion, there was 1 day for no fins, and there was 1 day for constant weight. And there was no choices, there was no rest days. The whole point is like, can you do, who is best on doing all 3 disciplines in 3 days, the same way, everybody.
Who can rise to the challenge that we have set for these few days.
Yes.
And everyone is in the same circumstances.
Yes. So, I mean, we liked it, and it was really popular, but it wasn't a lot of competitions around the world at the time anyway, but it was very popular. We had every year returning. Sometimes we had really good sponsors that we had quite nice prizes. Never really money, but computer suits, like fins, like proper, some more expensive things. Not every year, but several times we had quite good Rolly cameras, like instead of the, you know, they had the same stuff as a GoPro at the time, or in 2014 when Mares and SSI bonded, so to say, we got a lot of things from there. We had a lot of things from Australia at some point. So we had quite nice prizes, actually. So it was kind of worth it to make the effort and do these 3 things in that order, in this row, and actually compete. Of course, it was men and female separate, So it was fun. We had a lot of fun with that. It was
and
very...
you must have seen a lot of world records, actually, through those 10 years.
Massive, I think both Herbert and Natalia did a lot of records in our competitions. We also did, for many years in a row, we always did the Russia National. We arranged it for Natalia and Alexei. Because obviously they train in Russia, and their open water spot is Dahab, so they always came here. So in May, almost every year, we were doing the Russian national. Later they did it in Sharm, but we did it for many years. I know one time, I'm really bad with years now, but one time she specifically said it has to be on this date. Her birthday is in May, beginning of May somewhere. Really bad now, but I don't remember the date. But she wanted the competition to be on her birthday because that was her 50th birthday, and she intended to do a world record, and she wanted to, you know, show like the woman power, like we can do it as women, we can do it when we're older. So, and she did. Of course she did. She always did a world record. She entered the water. There was no fin record at the time. So we used to do it for them a lot.
Do you still follow the freediving competitions and the world championships and things like that?
No, not really.
Yeah.
I mean, since I stopped competing, which is many years ago, I don't know. It just didn't. No. And then it was a smaller community, and you knew the people. It was fun, you know. You knew the people. There was Martin Stepanek and Herbert Nitsch and all these people that you were training with and competing with. We all know each other. And it didn't matter if you were good or... I think it's similar now, but, you know, it didn't matter so much if you were a 20-meter diver or a 100-meter diver. It was a community, you know. Yeah. You were... You know, you were sitting discussing freediving with Herbert, even if you were a 20-meter diver, you know. Mm-hmm. I don't know, it changed a little bit, I think, but it's so many more people now.
Yeah, it's huge now.
And all the younger people that are in there, they're really good now. They didn't even know about how it was before, or, you know, like nobody know who I am anymore. You know? I was right up there, and I was training with all these old famous people, you know.
It's all around the world, internationally, freediving has exploded hugely, and now maybe I'm guessing that probably the biggest country in terms of like apart from China, biggest country would be Taiwan in terms of just the number of young people who take up freediving, and then in terms of like places to go and train, the Philippines and Panglao is kind of, you know, exceptional now in terms of
definitely.
But that's kind of what's nice about, at least in my understanding, from what people that I've spoken to, is that you can still come to Dahab, you can still take that pickup truck to the Blue Hole, and you still chill with Ali, and you can have Alexi could be there, and you know, Stefan is there, who's been there for years and years and years, and you know, any number of the world's elite freedivers. Alenka could be there. You know, anyone could be there, and you could sit down.
And they have been here. Yeah, exactly.
Easily
they
have
a
coffee with them, and it's just a normal, everyday kind of life for freediving community. And I think it's probably exceptional and special in the freediving world still, right?
Probably. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I've been in Panglao for sure, but it's not like, because Blue Hole is such a tight, small spot that it's impossible not to meet the people when you're there,
if you think about it.
Sorry?
It's basically one room if you think about it.
Yeah. So it's, I mean, and of course you need to be with Ali. I mean, Ali was there. I mean, we did all our competitions there. I actually was sitting originally in a restaurant next to Ali. I mean, it was always where we were sitting because there was not so many other freedivers around, But then we were doing the competition, and this restaurant they were sitting was eventually the one looking the shittiest, you know. And we always put like a lot of flags and did a lot of decoration of the place for the competitions. And in the end, it's like I told the guy, look, we're having, and was a bigger competition with a lot of people coming. And I said, look, can you like fix up your restaurant a little bit? Like it's sad that I will have the competition and I'm in the restaurant that looks the worst, you know. But he wasn't interested in doing that, so I just swapped at the time, and we did it in Aquamarina. Then I was never welcome to the other restaurant again. I don't care, because that's how and I knew Ali kind of before, but you know how it is there. You kind of, well, now you don't, because everybody go to Ali. But if you went to one place and then suddenly you went to another place, they were pissed off with you. Like it's like you belong to a place, you know. And it was really hard to try to choose different to make everybody happy in the end. So it's like, no, let's just not do it. So I stayed with Ali because they were pissed off with me that I didn't do the competition. I said, well, then I don't go there anymore. And Ali never had that attitude, And then he did the courses with us, and I always pushed him to like join the competitions, and sometimes he was the starter before, so he learned so much about the freediving, and in the end he's a part of it very much.
He is an exceptional person, honest, kind individual in Dahab, but also he's kind of like one of the most, I would say, he's one of the most important people in the freediving community, because he binds everyone together in that place. Like when you go there, like it's like a safe space. You know that you're getting looked after. Like you get a special kind of treatment from Ali. He's working like minute by minute to give you this treatment, but also to take care of your food, to take care of your buoy, to help you find something that's lost, to give you equipment if you've forgotten to bring something.
And for safety and rescue, he's always been involved. It's a little bit harder now when it's further away from the entry point. But even then, like there's the defibrillator, you have the oxygen, he will be on the spot. If something happened, he knows, I don't know how he knows, but he knows. He has a binocular.
He's literally watching the boys with binoculars.
Yeah,
from
he
the shop.
is knowing what is happening in the water, and if there's an accident, he will be standing by the shore side or somebody from his place with oxygen and stuff, even if it's farther away. Yeah, but originally he was the one who has the easiest, shortest entry. Yeah, and he was always involved in anything like that. He would be the one that immediately you're towing somebody back, and he's there with the oxygen. The car is prepared to go somewhere. Like you don't have to say anything. He knows, and they just do it. Yeah. So it's a super important part of the freediving. Yeah.
Special thanks to Ali and
Mohammed. I wanted to say, don't forget
Mohammed, because he's in the background a lot. But if it wasn't for him,
and he's the main chef. So beside Ali being the person he is, or Mohammed being the person and involved in the freediving and knowing, they're also actually doing great food, and
amazing
people
food.
love their food.
It's the best food in Dahab.
And in general, is Mohammed who is the chef, the main chef, the cook. Yeah.
Yeah, I love those guys, and of course Ali's actually been a guest on the podcast.
Yeah.
You'll see in the bottom of the screen the number if you're watching on YouTube. Otherwise, just search for Ali Okab on the search in the website. So we're on the rooftop Freedive Dahab, which by the way is like working out so well right now.
It is.
I did have to put the sunglasses on, but
you have a little bit, but I'm still happily in the shade.
It's so cool. And we're in the thick of it here in Dahab, but it's quiet. It's amazing location. I did not step foot into Freedive Dahab for a year and a half until we first connected, and then I couldn't believe when I came in, because you have probably the best facility here for freediving as a freediving school and for freediving education in the town. Tell us how you ended up here in this amazing location, and kind of what are you doing here?
I'm running a freediving school. Well, this location we moved to in the beginning of 2019. So obviously I've been having Freedive Dahab since 2003. So we're definitely the oldest school in Dahab. Yeah.
Remember you told me that you used to be in where Namaste was before, and I couldn't figure out
which is
what you
that
meant,
way, but
because
okay.
Now I see that they've also covered the outside.
Yeah.
So you were in the back one of those rooms back there.
No. Yes. We were there for 10 years. Yeah. Before that, we were somewhere else. But that's when before we started off being integrated in scuba center. So in 3 different places. And then we decided,
so you just moved from center to center.
Yeah, we were in my husband's center, and then that center moved. So then we moved with the center to another place. Then there was an issue with the other owner of the hotel there, so it's like, well, we don't need you. We moved to another place, me and Linda, obviously, and we moved to Reef 2000, Bedouin Moon. We were there for a while because I needed a pool. Like for me, I was a static person. I did a lot of static. I loved static, and for me, has to be done in a pool. Until I started doing it in the sea. Now I think that's much better. But that was weird in the sea for me in the beginning. So it's like you have to have a pool. So we were in Bedouin Moon, and then we decided, like, okay, we actually don't really need a scuba center, because in the end of the day, you're always the one getting the classroom the last, or you didn't really have much help from the center. So we had good deals, you just paid the commission, like you paid per customer you had. So it's nice, if you didn't have customer, you didn't have any expense. Yeah. So it was a big step when he decided to actually rent a place which had a fixed monthly expense. Yeah. Anyway, so we rented 2 apartments in Asala, close to the beach, where we also had rooms for rent, and that was the first center, as in our own center. Yeah. But we were there for maybe 1.5 years, but it was complete. It was not the best landlord. We were problem with the landlord, and we got really tired of dealing with taking care of the customers, the rooms, like, oh, the water is not running, or the gas is finished, and cleaning, and because Linda and I was doing everything ourselves still at the time. Yeah.
Linda Paganelli, who was your partner.
Yeah. Well, still is my partner.
Still is your partner. Yeah. Also a guest on the podcast previously. I forget the number, but
Yeah. So we were like, that was the two of us. We did everything. We did all the courses. We didn't have any employees or anything. Yeah. So we didn't want to clean sheets and stuff anymore. And we figured it's better to be somewhere where the people in Dahab know where we are. We were still kind of the only freediving center. And that's when we moved to where Namaste is now, which is right in front of the mosque.
It's like 100 meters down the road here.
Yeah. So we started with 2 shops. There are 4 shops there. We started with 2 shops. Is it 4 or 3? Maybe we started with 1 and then we rented the second one. So we had 2 out of 3 shops. And Namaste was in the 3rd shop and we were in the 2 first shops. We did the whole roof outside, you know, to cover the sitting area. And then eventually we did rent the 2 apartments upstairs and we started having rooms again to rent for people. But now we had the cleaning person and we had the office person and then we had other instructors working. So it started becoming a bigger center that we didn't do all ourselves anymore. Yeah.
And then you came to here.
So we were there for 10 years. And then we moved here.
Such a long time. It's like... You were there, and then you came to this amazing location 100 meters down the road.
Yes. So what we were looking for actually was we really wanted a swimming pool. Yeah, we really wanted to have our own swimming pool. So we were looking, and we had some different options where we were trying to find. You can find a place to build a swimming pool, but we wanted to find a place to build a swimming pool and still not have to take a taxi to go to Lighthouse. So it had to be in this area. And as you know, there's not a lot of land left here to build a swimming pool and still be walking distance to the open water, right? We found a place. We almost made a deal. It fell through for different reasons. And then suddenly this was free, and this building is something I've been looking at for the last 15 years because it's so cool. You know, it used to be a Russian dive center and it was closed. It was just with gates and a lock on it, and it says Crocodile Dive Center, and I never was inside, but there's these palm trees inside and it just looked so cool, and it was just always empty. And at some point somebody opened a restaurant. I think it started with a Korean trying to have Korean dive center and restaurant. Of course that doesn't work. And you can't open a new dive center in Dahab. It's super difficult and restricted. So they were there for a couple of months or a year maximum. And then there was a Turkish thing. They barely opened before they closed. And so it kept being restaurants for a couple of times, but it never worked out. Yeah. And then I just got to know that somebody said, oh, you know that building is for rent now. And Linda is not here a lot anymore because we have our other school in Tenerife, in Canary Islands. So she's mainly there. She lives there now. So, but she was here right at that time. So it's like, cool, look, we need to go and see it. So we made an appointment the next day to see it together. We went in, we look at it, and we take it. Like, it's like, we take it.
Yeah, so now you have this amazing location in the center of Dahab where you're still teaching one of the main schools for teaching freediving courses in Dahab. You do SSI.
Yeah,
right?
We do SSI, yeah.
No, I like SSI. I did my first courses with SSI with Victor Shetniak, who was also here for a long time. And I still have fond memories of doing my first 2 courses because I also became an SSI instructor. It was my first instructor course. Yeah, I really like the place. It's an amazing location. Really great option if you're coming to Dahab and you want to do freediving courses. All right. For the Patreon supporters, a million thank yous if you are supporting the podcast through Patreon. This bit is especially for you guys. Lotta thinks this is the main thing to freak out about somehow.
Yes.
And, I can't even remember what the questions are or find them. Okay. Okay, thank you for answering the Desert Island questions. Wasn't that hard?
Well, I didn't have very good answers. I said, I don't know.
Just a couple of questions before we finish up. I have the classic question that we always ask, but since we focus a lot on Dahab in this interview, do you still love Dahab? You still like it here?
Yes, I do like it here. I think otherwise I would probably have left. I know why I moved here first, which was partially freediving, but mainly not. I mean, we were planning that already before. I wasn't sure I was going to start a freediving school when we moved here. Because here, the lifestyle, it was so nice to be away from the commerce, you know, from the we need to buy, we need to have, we need to, you know, we're this, what do you call it in English, this wheel, you know, the rat is running in a wheel thing, because, you know, you go to work, you work every day to pay the rent, to live, to work, to, I don't know, like, you know, everything is expensive, we need to buy nice things. And when you go on vacation, you need to go and explore all the nice restaurants and buy a lot of souvenirs and stuff. And here you came, it's like, the restaurant sucks, so you eat to eat, not to be fancy, just because you need to put food in the belly. There's absolutely nothing you want to buy. Nothing. It doesn't matter where you wear.
Bedouin carpets. You can only have so many Bedouin carpets.
Yeah. And it's like, it doesn't matter what you're wearing. You don't have to dress up for anything. You can go to the restaurant for breakfast and you're still there for dinner. You know, you just keep hanging out. And there's like that thing of just letting go of all this commerce was for me like, this is the perfect vacation, right? This is what made me fall in love with this place. Of course, that's not how I live here, right? Then you come here, you live, you start working, and you're doing the same as home, but still not, because it's still my hours, my time. I know when I work or not work, and I can, you know, you can decide yourself in a different way. I don't know. I've been here for so long now. Sometimes I'm thinking if I ever went home and got a real job, a normal job, it's like, could I even do that? Could I be somewhere for 8 hours, 5 days a week on somebody else's terms of hours, you know? I don't even know.
No,
you know?
No. I mean,
you get really spoiled on like
every place is what you make of it, and you know, you might end up, for some reason you could have to go back and you could have to do that kind of thing, you know, like, but in which case it's your responsibility to make that reality the best reality that you can make it. But I think what appeals to a lot of people about Dahab is that even though those of us who choose to live here still have to make a living and still have to be part of some kind of rat race in a sense, we kind of do it on our own terms, and we can be as involved in it or, you know, separated from it as much as we can. And it's quite simple here. It's quite a simple life. It's pretty straightforward. We still have immediate access to the sea and to the desert.
It's still quite cheap living, even if it got much more expensive than it used to be, especially rents. But yeah, I mean, I'm from Sweden. It's not like you. I mean, here you don't need heating. I mean, you need food and water and shelter, right?
Yeah,
to survive.
And that's all
and that's easier
affordable
here than in a cold country.
So affordable. I was just in Greece, you know, 3 weeks ago, and that was my first time in Europe. I realized for 12 years.
Oh wow!
And Greece is a cheap country in Europe, and fuck, man, when I went into the supermarkets, I was like, I don't know how I would survive here, because it's expensive, compared to here. I can get vegetables for the week here for 2 or 3 euros. You know, it's insane. Finally, last question: why do you freedive, Lotta?
Do I?
Why did you freedive? No, obviously, I mean, like, you still have, you know,
I'm still
big
very
part of your
passionate about it, for sure.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I don't do it as much
what is
myself anymore.
The deeper meaning of freediving for you?
But I know why I fell in love with it originally, for sure. Like, for me, it was just an absolute peace of mind experience. Yeah. Even the static, I fell in love with static, but even depth, you know, like there is something, I think is the MDR, really, that just alters your mind. It calms you down so much that you feel so peaceful. And I think having this running brain all the time that we have, that just like, I love FRCs. That kicks in the MDR even stronger, I think. So I could just go FRCs and you come up with this ridiculous smile. Like, it's like, one more. It's like a drug. Yeah, so it's just so peaceful. It like mentally, I don't know, like it put me in a state where nothing else ever managed to put me in. you know, in relaxation state, right? People ask like, how do you meditate? How do you manage to relax for your statics and stuff? And I said, no, that's what makes me relax. I don't need to, you know, I can't meditate.
Yeah.
Like that is the meditation, you know, the free diving or the static is the meditation, the breathe up and everything, you know, that's the thing. Like, I think it's beneficial for anybody in life, you know.
Lotta, thank you so much for joining me in the Freedive Cafe. It's been absolutely wonderful to talk to you.
Thank you.
And let's dive.